Hey guys, welcome to round 2 recap at Oskiman Open. Yesterday I drew a strong international master and today I was playing one of the strongest international masters ever. This guy played in the same team as myself in the World Rapid and Blitz teams in Astana, Kazakhstan in August. You might have seen my videos on this. And he beat Hans Niemann, he beat many other top grandmasters. He drew Daniil Dubov and Daniil miraculously saved that game. Daniil was lost. So this is a very strong opponent. Aristan Isanjulov and I'm playing with the white pieces. Of course, I'm much lower rated, but I'm not afraid. I know Aristan, we are on good terms, and it was very interesting to see how I could fare against him. So let's dive into the game. So I start with 1e4, he opens up with a Sicilian defense, and I use my pet line with bishop b5. This is all theory, and here I castle. He attacks my bishop. He can, of course, take the bishop with the knight, and there is theory also in this variation, but it's pretty decent for white because white is up in development. The black side has two bishops, but they are not yet activated, so there are some perks in this position for white. So instead, he kicks my bishop. I drop back. I still have the fever, by the way. I'm still playing with the fever, but I'm feeling a bit better than yesterday. So I go e5 here. I actually did not remember what my file said about this position. It probably said e5, but I remembered that before I was playing online and I played, I think, rook e1, and I got hit with g5, and it was really unpleasant because now g4 is threatened and my knight doesn't have any square because e5 is taken by this knight, h4 is taken by this queen, g1 is taken by my king, h2 is taken by the pawn, and e1 the rook occupies this square. So I remember that rook e1 is bad. This is what I remembered. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to go e5. It's actually a good move. Grishuk, one of my podcast guests, actually chose it against a couple of his opponents. I didn't know that. I checked it later after the game, and I was surprised that I played like Grishuk. So the idea is to a little bit control the dark squares here and open up the bishop, maybe go bishop e4 and trade like this, or maybe go knight e4 and jump with the knight to d6. So there are many ideas, but the main idea is to take some space in the center. So he goes d5. He doesn't want me to take the space in the center. I en passant him take this pawn. And here, most people would automatically take on d6 with a bishop or a queen, but Aristan is very clever and cunning, and he first goes knight f6. Probably he didn't like the fact that I can go knight e4 here, and this is what he probably didn't like, and the bishop cannot drop back here because this will be hanging. So he decided to be tricky and went knight f6. Here I thought I can still go knight e4. I thought I can go bishop e4, but bishop e4, I didn't like something about it. I don't remember what I didn't like, but I didn't like something. So I decided to go knight e4, which is kind of logical. Here he could have traded on e4, but that would lead to a position where I'm very well developed. I will prepare d4. I wanted to go c3 and then d4. The computer actually approves. So yeah, I'm not stupid. So this is what I wanted to do. And he decided, you know what? I'll take with the bishop and I will imbalance the position. So this is an important lesson for all of you guys. If you're playing a lower rated opponent, like Aristan is playing myself, I'm how many points lower rated? 500 rated points lower rated than him. He wants to imbalance the position to create some chances for himself. So he gives up the bishop for the knight, and well, it's supposedly better for the side with the two bishops, but my dark squared bishop has not yet seen the light of day, so it's a balanced position, around equal, the computer says. I go rook e1. I want to control the e-file. Rook belongs on this file, of course. e5. He wants to activate his bishop, maybe to go to g4, pin my knight, and then go knight d4. And also there are ideas like knight g4 in some variations. So I prevent this with h3. A nice move. Computer approves of as well. He castles, and I go b3 to activate the bishop over here. So b3 is also not the top engine choice, but still it's a good move, and the position is balanced. A little bit better for black, according to the engine. I don't know why, because I didn't make any mistake or inaccuracy, according to the engine. But still, the engine likes the space, probably. But at least out of the opening, I've survived against a very strong opponent. It's a good thing. So we have a chess game on our hands. he goes knight d5. He wants obviously to put the knight on f4. It's very important when your opponent goes h3 or h6, the fact that he or she creates the weakness on f4 for the knight, or if you're playing black, h6 leads to the weakness on f5, because it's here it's more difficult for me to go g3 to prevent this knight f4, because the h3 pawn will be hanging. So this is a subtlety in the position. So any pawn move leaves some weaknesses. When you advance your pawns, you leave some weaknesses behind. So this is what you have to live with. But still, it's around equal. Here I thought about going bishop b2, just developing, but I didn't like knight f4. Of course I should have gone for this, but I decided, you know what, I'm not going to meekly passively stand idly waiting for him to destroy me. I'm going to try and destroy him. Knight g4, which is an inaccuracy, not the best move, but it has some ideas. So of course I'm attacking h7. And the idea is that if he goes, for example, g6, he will weaken this diagonal, so this is not good. If he goes h6, I will go to e4 and attack his queen, and it's a good position for me. What else can he do? If he goes knight f6 back, this is like admitting defeat. So, of course, he has to go f5 to block this diagonal and to advance the pawns in the center. But here I decided to continue my escapade. And first I went bishop c4, using the fact that now this diagonal is open. And here I calculated something. I calculated that if he goes e4, trying to be clever and rid my knight of the square, I have a great move, queen h5. This is what I calculated. Attacking here on h7, and it seems like nothing happened, h6, but I have knight e4. This is what we both saw. Of course, my opponent did not fall for this trap, because takes, and I can just take, and I am up some material. I will win this pawn as well, so I will be 2 pawns up and absolutely winning. So this was a trap that I set. Of course, I was not expecting my opponent to fall for it, but I thought that bishop c4 is a good move. I will go queen h5 later on and try to attack my opponent. This is what I planned to do. Top engine move, b5. My opponent does not wait. He wants to kick my bishop away. I trade. Now we enter an opposite colored bishop scenario. A little bit more pleasant for black, because knight g5 was inaccurate, but nothing too crazy. I go queen h5 attacking, and this is a mistake. This is a mistake. You see that the evil bar dropped. I did not... I underestimated the resources that my opponent had here. So at first, from afar, I wanted to do this, h6. I thought that this is the logical move, knight f3, the only retreating move, e4, the only logical move. This is what my opponent did. And from afar, I wanted to go bishop b2, sacrificing the knight, because if he takes, I wanted to go queen g6. And I'm threatening mate, and if he goes, for example, rook f7, rook e8 is a checkmate into, so of course he cannot do this. If he goes queen f7, I can take on c6. So apparently it's around equal. So, but I liked it, some chaos in the position. But then I realized that he has another way to, and yes, if he goes here, for example, I have rook e7, or again threatening this checkmate, and he has nothing better than repeating moves like this. So I would be fine with a draw. So this I spent some time analyzing this. I was thinking like, I'm so clever, wow, great resource. And then I realized that he has queen d7 here. And I'm stupid, because the queen both guards g7 and c6. And if I take like this, he'll just take like this, and I cannot even take the knight, because queen g2 will be checkmate. So I realized it somewhere around here. Yeah, I realized it once I was deciding whether to go queen h5 or not. I realized the fact that I should not do this, but I still decided, you know what, I should be active. So queen h5, attack, drop back, and I decided to go to h4 and to maybe infiltrate and continue my attack. Of course, I did not know that my position is already close to losing. I misevaluated it, and my opponent found the most precise move, queen f7. I didn't expect this. Why trade the queens here? I didn't expect this, but turns out I'm close to losing because I have to trade. Otherwise, if I drop back, for example, he has g5, and my knight is trapped. He doesn't have any squares to go to. They're all taken. So I have to take. He takes with the king, which is again top engine move. And my knight is almost trapped. If black moves here, g5 traps my knight. So I have to do something. And there is another threat that I cannot stop. Knight d4. So for example, if I go g3 to free up the g2 square for my knight to retreat, he has, for example, g5, knight g2, knight d4. And he is threatening this pawn on c2, which will fork both my rooks, and he will win not just the pawn, but a rook for a knight. And he is also threatening knight f3 check with a fork. And I cannot stop both threats. Well, I can go rook d1, but this is not good. This is like a very sad position to be in. He's just dominating. So I calculated all this here, and I decided that g3 does not work, and probably I'm already lost, but I should create some chaos on the board, so I went for a crazier g4. The idea is similar. I have the square for the knight now, but I also create some chaos over there, and if he takes here, I will be able to take with my rook, and at least I'm not getting forked by the knight anytime soon. But he just calmly takes, I take, and here there are many ways to win for black, but he chooses the most precise, again, top engine move, g5, depriving me of the f4 square for the rook, also attacking the knight has to leave to g2, and this is not a happy square for the knight. And here, he could have taken the pawn, but he decided to go for even more activity, knight d4. Great move. Now he's threatening to take this pawn, but also he's threatening to go bishop b7. And also he wants to go knight f3 in some variations. And here I was calculating various things. I thought maybe I can go bishop b2, but I didn't like this check. And if I go here, knight d2 will be a fork and I will lose. So I have to go king h1, but then he'll just take, and this is like a horrible position for me. I have to drop back, and then he has bishop d7 with this x-ray by the bishop. So I decided, you know what, no, I'm not going to go bishop d2. Then I thought, what else can I do? I can, of course, take the pawn, which I did, but I saw that there is bishop b7 here, attacking my rook, and actually I have to give up the rook for the knight here. Because if I drop back here, he'll take this pawn with a fork and I'll lose the rook, or he can check me on f3 as well, another fork, so not good. If I go here, knight f3 is also a fork, and I have no other squares for the rook, so I decided, you know what, yeah, I have to give up the rook here. I will do it. Actually, you know what, here, I thought that if he goes after g5, knight g5, if he goes bishop f5, I wanted to sack the rook like this. So I was prepared to sack the rook. I thought that this is not that bad because I'll put my knight on e3 and try to cement the position. Still, it's lost, but at least I have a bishop and a pawn for a rook. But still, the position is lost because his pieces are too active, mine are not developed. But I was fine with the idea of sacking the rook, so here he chose another approach, but still it led to me sacking the rook here on d4. And I decided to play on, even though I realized that my position is hopelessly lost. I activated the bishop, attacking the pawn, and I'm really amazed by the technique my opponent showed. Most people, usual, ordinary chess players, would just defend the pawn with like rook d8, and of course it's winning for black. But he chooses the most precise, the most highly technical way of playing top engine move, rook a to e8, and I didn't even see that move. And it turns out that I cannot take this pawn because rook e4 will come, forking the bishop and the pawn. And if I drop back, for example, rook g4 wins this knight because it is pinned. So this is very brutal. So rook a to e8. Wow, what a move! Of course he could have won not in such a style, but this is class. So I prevent him from infiltrating, but he just trades everything. And here I thought he'll go rook e2 and win everything, but he chose rook c8, which is also fine. c3 is the move that I chose because if I take, he'll take on c2 and all my pawns will fall. So I try c3. And here he again doesn't pay attention to material, but just activates his king. Very great technique. It doesn't matter that I'll take another pawn and I'll have a bishop and two pawns for the rook. He's just too active. His king is in the center. His rook will infiltrate and I'm dead here. So rook c2, infiltration. If I go bishop c3, he'll take this pawn of mine, so I decide to give up one of the pawns to activate my bishop and go for his pawns on the king side. I was hoping for him to go rook c6, and at least I have time to activate my king in this variation, although it's still lost. But he's very precise. He does not waste time on defense. He takes my pawn, and he doesn't even take this pawn because he realizes it's not important. He realizes that this pawn is much more important because he will have two connected passed pawns, which will march down. And he correctly assessed this position as winning for him. He even further activated the king. The king is dominating my king. My king is cut off. It cannot join the action. In endgames, it's very important to have an active king, and my opponent shows what an active king is. This is like the textbook example of an active king and active rook. And in my position, only the bishop is kind of active, preventing these pawns from marching, the A pawn from marching, but the B pawn will march, and I can't do anything about it. I try to do something. I go bishop c7, trying to go f4, f5, etc., because the bishop now controls f4. But he just goes rook d3 and goes b4 and goes b3 and takes with check and goes b2. And I long ago realized that I'm lost, but I still decided to go through the motions. Maybe like there is never a mistake in playing on and not resign. This is my philosophy. Well, unless you are down a queen. If you are down a queen against an equal or stronger opponent, of course you should resign. But here there is no shame in playing on a little bit. But here I resigned already because I realized that this is a check. I go anywhere. He goes rook f3, so he stops my pawn and he queens his pawn. Actually, he could have even promoted to a queen, I guess, and checkmated me in this endgame. I think this should be also a checkmate. Queen e1. Yeah, there will be queen h3 and rook g2 is checkmate. So this is what he could have gone for, but there's no need to calculate this for black. If you can prevent any counterplay by your opponent, he just went rook d3 check, and rook f3 stops me from queening, and I cannot stop his queen. So a very, very, very high class performance by my opponent. I was completely outclassed. Aristan is very strong. He's an international master, but again, he's just young. He hasn't made the required GM norms, but he'll definitely do it. In Blitz, he's rated 2550, I think. So he's very, very strong. And I wish him the best. And I'm sure at some point later in life, I will be able to compete on equal terms with such opponents, but not today. I'm not strong enough yet. But this was an important lesson. Today round 3 will be played, and I will go and prepare now. Check out my podcast with Pragnananda Ramesh Babu, by the way, and drop a comment if you like this recap. See you next one. Bye bye.